Okay, so I started the class and I talked for like 5 minutes and then realized there was no, so now there's audio. All right, once again, screen share, this page, not that. We want to see this. There we go. This, what is this? This is a sketch. This is a sketch from my sketchbook. It's from my cartoon strip. I do a cartoon strip where I put a cartoon up every week. It's called Tiki Island Princess. You can find it at tikiislandprincess.com. Okay. So what I want to show you, as you know, this week we're all doing stuff on the adjustment tabs. And the other video goes into quite a lot of detail here of all the stuff in here, which is all the adjustments you can do to color, black and white, or saturation, or so. And that's about all. That's about everything. And there's all sorts of presets in here, and we kind of went through it. And then the other way, I can go Windows and also call up adjustments. And here they have like pretty icons, and I can click on these or I can click on these. It doesn't really matter. They kind of do the same thing. All right, so the first thing I want to do is desaturate this image because it's much easier to get a good black. So maybe I should tell you what the process is for working on this. So when you have a sketch and say you want to final a sketch or make it pretty or something, but it's all done in ink and there's like, notes in the line and there's bindings on it and stuff. But so you want to make this like a really nice sort of thing. So let me show you a final one. Let's see if I can do, if I have one lying around. Should have one. Oh. So here's what my final ones look like. And they all start off really sketchy. They certainly do. They all start off like this, just a kind of a vanilla thing. And then I'm able to kind of really bring them quite far into this. And then I have I do a gradient in the background and I mess with the color a lot and play with levels and things. So, and I'll take you through that step because it'll teach you how to do the other thing where we're going to recolorize photos. But this is a little bit easier to think about. It's more like a coloring book rather than having to worry about grays and people's faces and highlights and weird stuff like that. So if, let's see if I'll open up the PSD for this one. And you can see how many layers of stuff I have going on. I will close them all down and open them up one at a time and we'll look through them. I have this layer, which is just the framework that I use to import the cartoon into. And then I'm using a layer mask and kind of size the frames up differently than they might have been in the sketch. So say I didn't like how big their faces were in the sketch, I can make them bigger or smaller or zoom in on a different part or something. It's a chance for a second sort of a volley at it. Here's the cleaned up black and white lines, and this is just these sketches are drawn with pencil, but then they're gone over with pen. So there's quite a fine line, but then there's sketch underneath it that kind of needs to be cleaned up. And you can see some of the sketches. If the color is dark, I can leave the sketches in, but if the color is light, like I can never, the eyes and the teeth and stuff always have to be cleaned up or else they look like crap. There's the color layer for the characters. There's shadow for the characters. And then up here's the background for the characters, and then 3 blocks of text. All right. That's where we're going. And we're going to start here. Close this one. So the first thing we want to do, right, Windows, is desaturate everything because it's much easier to operate on when it's desaturated. So I can go call this up, actions, and just find do hue and saturation, and I can take all the saturation out, which does a fine job. Move that up, move that over, and you can see that way it's created a non-destructive layer, in case you're into that. I'm not. I can get rid of it. Get out of here. Yes. So I'm back to that. I'm going to use very destructive. So destructive is over here, image, desaturate. And you can see that does the same thing. But one button, it doesn't add a layer to it. When you use this adjustment thing, it adds a layer on top of it. And then you have to keep track of it, right? I'm also going to unlock that. I'm going to take the selection tool and I'm going to select this area in here where I can see the four corners of the frame. Now, the apertures that these things are taken in is the cartoons are made to fit in the apertures, but the cartoons don't always scan or photo perfectly. So if I hold down Control, I can sneak these corners into each of the corners. I think I showed you this before. And as I do this, you can see it kind of puts in perspective and stuff. But if I bring the corners of my hand-drawn things into the corners of this thing, it does a pretty good job of flattening it out, which is kind of fun. All right, so now we've desaturated it. We've recentered the picture so it's kind of flat. And now I can go in here and go image adjust, brightness contrast. And if you watch the other video, I use a legacy. I can up the brightness and up the contrast. And so this is always kind of a dance. Now let me cancel this and zoom in so you can see what's going on. So how is this a dance? Well, if you come in here and adjust the brightness and contrast enough, it'll get rid of a lot of the errant brush strokes or pencil strokes here. So if I click the brightness up and do the contrast, you can see, like, watch these lines in here, which are actually supposed to be there, but we'll pretend they're not. And they kind of disappear like the more contrast I use. Now, the danger is that if I go too much contrast, my lines break up. It starts eating into the pen lines. It's not fine anymore. So I can only up the brightness and contrast as much as there's like a tipping point and I can kind of see it, but I'm kind of familiar with it. Done this for a while. So I want to take it up as high as I can and get a nice white background, but not start eating into the line. So that's about there. And now these are pretty good. I can save this one. I don't know what number this is. Oops, I'll be right back in a second. Hi, dog. You need to go outside? There you go. All right. I'm at 695. That's a lot of colors. 695. I'm going to save it as Photoshop, a PDF, a PSD, because I'm going to start doing layer work on it. Great. And then need to, I want to create a, bring it into the, I want to bring this into my other thing. I have made a framework for it. So if I open that, my cartoon 4x4, and this is really easy to make. I literally took a rectangle and remember vectors from last week? So thank you. Did that, and then I duplicated it. Or if you hold down, if I have this selected, and hold down shift and scoot the next one over, and it doesn't matter if they're white, like if I hide the bottom one here, you can kind of see, oh, there's nothing in there. They're just the frames. But white and black don't matter for what we're doing here because we're going to be using a type of, duplicate those. We're going to be using a multiply anyway, so you'll be able to see with multiply a strong line black, a white disappears, and the strong line black just shines through, which is good because then you can color behind it. Okay, so that's literally how I made the thing, and then I can collapse them all. And I think I even just upped the line a little bit, which I've been meaning to do anyways. All right, dog, you're driving me crazy. Nobody in the class wants to see me break every 5 minutes to open and close the door for you, right? Except for you. You don't mind that. And everybody kind of wonders about you for that. All right, so there's my picture, and I'll take this one here, kind of get them side by side. Now I want to do is get this in there. So I come over here and I'll make this a little smaller. Usually I just have these on two different screens, but we'll go like this. All right, so I use the marquee selection tool. I'm going to grab my first frame there. I'm going to go Control C. I'm going to come over here into my box. I'm going to select inside the boxes. Control V. I'm going to edit, paste special, paste into. The giant crash was my dog. She's okay, but she's a little scared. I have no idea what she's eating. And then you say I can scale this in and it's behind the lines and stuff. So I can make it as big or small as I want. Like I very well might want to come in here and draw more of his leg in. And that wasn't included in the original drawing because you can see here it's below. But I can just come back in there and using the pen tool, fix that. Okay, now I want to make sure that I go back to the bottom because I need this bottom bit here to select these. So select that, and then I'm selected in here. I can come over here, and then I can still have this tool selected, but now I can grab, if I hold down the right key button, I can move this pre-selected thing around. We don't need to select it all over again. Come back over here and go again, edit, paste special, paste into, and you can see it's making a mask every time. And then transform scale, free transform. And I can make this really big because that's all that's happening at frame. So you want it to be a little more special. Come back in here, select the bottom one. These are my two layers here. And then select this. I'll paste into. And then find a good placement for that. That's not bad. Don't worry about this kind of stuff. We'll go in and clean it up there. Select this one again, come over and get my last one. And then bring the funny in the final frame. Okay, there you go. And you can see that that this is all done now. So we can close this. I'm gonna save this into my raw file. I don't want to lose all the changes I've made to it, but I can't store it in the main place here. So I'm gonna save it in here. And then I don't need any more. I can close it. And I this one, my mainframe. And then I just need to save this one as the other one. Save this one as 95. Replace it. Okie dokie. And then all I need to do is clean this up. Merge these. So I'm going to select all of these layers here. I could leave them separate and edit them separately, but it found it's faster to edit them all at the same time. So I can merge these layers. All right, look, you guys want to see my dog? She's biting me. I'm going to pause for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, dog sedated. All right, so all these are merged. These are all on one thing and these are all on one thing. And you can see if I turn this off, that the white bits here are just being overlaid by this. Like they kind of disappear a little bit. Okay. So with the magnifying glass, I'm going to fit screen so I can see them all. Now I just want to take a eraser, and I don't want to have the limits on. And then I just go in and anything that the other thing, anything that the brightness contrast didn't take care of. Oops. I can go in and fix. And I might want to, sometimes I'll zoom in to make it easier and quicker to do this. I should do this like, and through the magic of television. In fact, I will. I will do that. Not quite yet. I'll do one and then you guys can, I'll clean up the rest of them so you guys don't have to sit through this garbage. But I really am just going through with an eraser. When I draw these, I'm not very careful about it. I kind of, the whole purpose of having a cartoon strip for me is so that I don't have to be all graphic designy with it. And so when I clean these up, I try and leave some of the marks, some of the pencil marks in there. So I think that kind of brings a little bit of life to the work. There's so much digital vector, craptacular artwork out there. No offense if that's your thing, man. That I like hand drawn stuff. I like to see that there's people involved in it, artists involved in the art, not just a machine. Like quite often in graphic design or something, You're like, oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect ad. I can't tell that there's a person did anything in that. It's exactly perfect. That's like, great. Okay, so I'm using the pen tool now, and I just gonna go in, and I've got a soft brush, and fix her eyes. Put in stuff I forgot, like eyebrows. Hit up any spaces that I think need a little more attention. And I could just draw this. Forgot fingers. I could just draw this in the computer, and it would probably be just fine because my sketch thing is pretty. I have a pretty good computer for drawing sketches on it. And see, I'm going to thick thin line. But I like having, I don't like carrying my Cintiq around with me everywhere. I really like having a sketchbook. So this is my kind of compromise. I draw everything in paper first and then scan it for finalizing and then posting. All right. Oops. Rinse, repeat. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, the Magic of Television, we're all cleaned up mostly. I'm sure there'll be some stuff that I'll need to handle. All right, so I just want to quickly save this thing. Tune 6.5. Great, and you can see now their faces are a little bit better. There's some bits and pieces here and there. Edgeworth's leg, the table, that extra little line out. So now I'm going to name this one EW for black and white. So this one is really 4x4. So this is in black and white. I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to start coloring it in. Now this is exactly like coloring in a coloring book. I get a pen. I don't want, if I keep these two buttons on, this allows me to do a variable pressured stroke in opacity, and I don't want that. I want full opacity, full stroke. And I'm going to come in here and grab a PG color. And then I'm going to give myself a bigger brush. And I'm just going to color her over her. And you can see this is hard to see. And I'm coloring over her face. So I'm going to switch the color layer, this one, to here in the blending styles. I'm going to switch it to multiply so that I can see it. So now what we have here, right, is I'm just drawing the color here, but because this layer, the color layer is on multiply, I can see the black coming through because that's what multiply does. It makes things a little bit darker when it's not black and white. It makes things a little darker, so you have to watch out for that. And so I found that when I'm coloring things in, and I'm going to be coloring in her whole body, that the fastest way to do this is that I only really care about the outside edge, right? Because I'm going to put a background in. So I'm careful on the outside edge, but anything that doesn't go to the outside. Like I don't mind drawing in this cup. I don't have any trouble drawing on her hair. Because I'm going to come back with a different color and do that again. So this PG color here is really just the first step. And I'll come back and do variable passes. So she only appears in two things. So let's just finish her out. Have this is the palette I have saved for my Tiki thing, where you can grab these and drag them down and create your own palette. These are since I do this all the time, I hated having to go around and search for all my colors. So I created my own personal palette for the characters so that I know every time what colors to use, except for her hair. I've never really found a hair color that I really like a lot. And you can see when I put down this darker color, not only am I going over the parts that I accidentally colored each, but it's covering up all the brush lines there from the pencil. This is too dark of a color for those to show. They probably do show. If I got really close, you'd probably be able to see it. But for the most part, they drop out. So the only things that you'll actually see are anything that's a lighter color than the black. Once you start getting close to black, then it doesn't show up. And come back in here and I'm drawing. You can see I didn't select a full white. I selected a near white. There we go. Oops, hold on. Okay, so Magic Television. Oops. Okay, am I talking? Yeah. Magic Television. All the characters are now colored in, and if I turn off the black part, the black and white part, you can see there's all the color, and it doesn't match, and it's not very good. But because the black lines frame it, it works pretty darn well. So what do you do with a color layer like this, right? So now I can use, let's put in a background for it. So what I can do is marquee select it. If I'll turn this off, you can see I'm marquee selecting or magic wand selecting. And I have to hit shift to get into these spots where it didn't select anything. And it's okay if you miss some of those, you can do them later. And I can turn this back on. And now I have just the white part selected. So I can drop in a background, right? I come over here to the gradient tool and pick a gradient from in here, pinks and purples and blues. I think I want a yellow, oranges. Did yellow go by and I missed it? Grays, maybe it's in oranges. Close enough. Because I can also hue shift it. And I just drag this down like this. And it automatically makes another layer. And if I turn all this off, you can see it's now, that layer is in between the other layers. But I've lost my selection and I can't see any of my black lines again. So what I want to do is change this again to a multiply. And I can see my black lines again. And I have my, whatchamacallit, my gradient. Here's my gradient. And if I want a better color is right, I can come in here and change these up a little bit. And I could add stuff in the middle if I wanted. I can change it to a round one or corner one or a 3-bar one, which it is already. So I changed the normal one to a 3-bar one. I just pull these things off. Remember, we went through this before. There you go. I think that's okay. And it didn't select in here because it was, whatchamacallit, blocked out, like there was a dam of color there. So it didn't magic wand in there. All right, so now we have a background, and actually, I'm going to collapse the gradient into a rasterized layer because I now want to be able to, it's easier for me to select on the characters. So, left a mask. All right, let's just merge 2 layers together then. Because what I want is this empty space. I don't want to be able to select the the gradient ramps. So select in here and get these parts. And I can turn the color back on. I can actually just select here. Oh, that and that and this and this and this and that. Do not need that right now. But we'll get back to that. Okay, so now I'm going to drop down a layer here and create another layer. And I'm going to pick a dark blue color. And I'm going to use this color to generate my shadow. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool. I'm drawing on that layer that sits above the color layer, but below the background layer. I know it's counterintuitive to have your background layer at the top. Just go. And then I'm just going to come in here and kind of hand paint where I think shadows would be. Just in a really broad stroke sort of way. So what lesson do we learn here? There's quicker ways to do things. You just have to know how to do it. Yeah, so I used to meticulously draw all the shadows. I would take the skin color and make sure the skin color is a percentage of the blue darker color in it, and then meticulously paint that in. And it was really slow and tedious, and my cartoons would take hours to finish. And then I learned this method of making shadows. So I switch this to multiply, and you can see it darkens everything there. And then all I need to do is lighten this up a bit until it's dark enough to be the shadow. Like, is it like outside and there's hardly any really sharp shadow, or is it inside and it's lesser of a shadow? And then I can go in once I have this and kind of adjust the shadows a little bit. Right now I'm erasing them. gotta maintain where the light's coming from. And it's nice because, right, the one color does a great job of, like, I don't have to mix blue and red to get this shadow color. I don't have to mix green and blue to get this. I am mixing it, but I'm mixing it here on a global sort of thing. So I'll ramp this up so you can see it. So that's where my shadows are painted right now. And it ends up working pretty well for doing that. So that kind of color mixing is really, really beneficial. It'll be really beneficial in the homework where you're doing a 60s thing. So, because if you need to, when you paint in a, when you paint in the color on the gradations, it's really nice to have to be able to alter that color a little bit, but you don't want to alter it completely. You still want it to be that color, but then you want it to be like a different shade or something. So it's a way of painting over layers and keeping control, because you can control like how much blend is happening. So if I were to do highlights, I would do it the same exact way. I would create another layer and paint highlights on. I don't do highlights in my cartoons. Every once in a while. I do need to come in here to the background though, and his mouth got a little bit of, didn't get selected when I did the thing, and I wouldn't mind. Getting the sword shapes a little bit better. You can see I accidentally just went over that, but that's okay. I can just come here and select that color, make sure that I'm on the background thing, and I can come in and paint these in as long as the same color. It's actually it's this one. It's not that one. It's nicer if I can go with the gradations of the color I want. And then here I can go in with a white color, so I can select the white color. So I want it to look like a swoosh across the background. But I want that to be on a different layer in case I want to turn it off, or in this case, multiply again. In this case, I want to add a little level detail to the background. So I can actually have my shadow layer way at the top here, and make sure I have nothing selected. And then I can come in here with that and now paint something selected. And come in here and paint shadows. Snore, gotta be in the right level layer. I can paint shadows into floor objects, or if these things are interacting with stuff in the scene, like this against a wall or something, I can paint that in. And I can also come in here now that I have this done. Another thing I do is that I used to just do the gradations for my backgrounds, and it's really kind of boring. But I do like the ramp. I didn't want to lose the color ramp because I think that works out well. So then I've been coming in here, I come in and then select it, and I can imply that there's a house involved here by drawing kind of silhouettes, but you just have to make sure that your silhouettes across different frames change heights. So that it looks like the frames are different. Like these are almost like, I should have zoomed in closer on her because they look like they could just be standing like that. And then I want to go adjust hue saturation, and I can lighten that up in the background there. Just the part I have selected, not the bottom part. I still have the ramp, it's still within the color range. If I want, I can change that color to something else. But I think I'm good. I just want to lighten it up a little bit. I could have also darkened it. You want to follow the rules here of depth, which means that things that are farther away are lighter and things that are closer have more saturation. All right, then if I deselect that, we have our cartoon strip, and then I would just take, bring in words here. Like we did with the text a couple weeks ago, and pick my font. My font is Comica for this thing. I don't remember what this said. I've typed out. And remember, I did this in the paragraph one. So if I squish it like this, it shows and stuff. But it's 48's way too big. I've like 18 maybe. And I use a black text. And sometimes I use punctuation. And you always want to read when you're adding text to something whether or not it fits. I think it'll fit better this way. I'm orienting it to the other side. There's a little more room. I can actually go like that. And there you have all the layers, right? We went went from nothing, we went from sketch, and then we created a framework. And that's what the sketches look like from where I erased and all that sort of stuff with them. Funny, huh? And then we built up a color layer, and then I added a background, and then we added shadows, and then I added a little highlight, and then finally added the text. And then I would save this out. I would save this. I'll say go ahead and save it here. And then I would save it out again as a PNG. And in fact, in order to post these where I post them, they need to be a little bit smaller. So I go in and reduce the size of the whole thing. Of course, I've done this almost 700 times, so I got it, a system down. Oops, that's not the system. It's 3,000, not 3. Just look at me. Yeah. Don't be on text. Don't ever be on the text layer when you're trying to do something. It causes so much weird stuff. Image size 3,000. There we go. That's the size I need for posting on Facebook and on Instagram and in my comic book. And then I save as a copy PNG, and it already, I can select the one I did before, 694, 65, save it. Although I don't remember if those are the actual words or not. This is kind of a Beat Saber riff, whoosh, but with a real pirate sword. Great. Okay, so that's essentially how you can take let's take that knowledge then of how we colorize this, and we'll put it to this other picture. So this I included. Oops, no, I don't want that on there. So here's the picture I chose, and the process for colorizing this is exactly the same. I will say I'm going to start I will say that oftentimes illustrators, when they're learning how to illustrate or they're beginning new illustrations, like the really good guys who draw like preview stuff for games and movies and stuff, concept art. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, so I can talk about this. So a lot of times when people are trying to figure out what the heck they're doing, they'll draw iterations. These are called thumbnails, and generally they're just black. But of course, if you're good at this, you can't help yourself but make them a little bit better. And then from these black ones here, you'll go in and start bringing out in gray. You'll start drawing highlights and shadows and things. And create midtones. And here's sort of another one of those. And then eventually, when you work out your midtones and your stuff, you'll start adding color and maybe some shadows. And then eventually, you'll start really adding color to it. But you work it up in gray first, because then when you go in with the color, you just paint over the lighter parts of the gray with the color, and it automatically paints for you because you have your shadows and stuff already worked out in gray. You just need to go in and add ramps and colors and things like that underneath the gray. So that's what is your homework. I want you to do just exactly that. Move this out of the way. Take a picture, much like this one. This is on the bottom layer, right? I'm going to create another layer to do artwork on or color on. I'm going to hit multiply. And then I'm going to bring a brush in, and I'm going to just start painting over him. That's like a gum print or something. So you guys have probably done quite a bit of this. And of course, if you're just painting over this, it's going to, I don't know where his other hand is. I'm assuming that's his other. I'm just going to pretend that's his other hand. Oops. I don't want the dark color on his face. I want the other color. And if these colors end up being too dark for what you're doing, you can use a screen. Some of these other ones work really well too. Color burn looks good. You can just kind of go over them. I always use multiply. Overlay is not bad. Looks like a better color to use. As long as you stay in the lines. Actually, there's so much skin in here, I probably could have just added that. You want to hit all of this stuff in here. So even if there's black, like you'll want to go in and kind of do the black. Okay, so once you get one done, your base color, it'll look kind of crappy like this, but then you can start another layer, right? And go in and maybe start working on the face a little bit. And like that might be way too much, right? But it's on a layer, so we can bring it down as much as we need to. There. Or if we don't like it, right, we can come in here and go image adjust, hue and saturation, and hot puppy, and change the color to whatever we want it to be, or increase the saturation, or make it darker. And so it's kind of a fiddly thing where you're working both ends of it here, right? The opacity and the actual color you chose. You can also, once you've gotten this far right, use ramps instead of just colors, which you might want to do. Like I can select all these hands and then come into the ramps. And do something like that. Merge these together because I want to be able to use them. Thank you. And then you can see you get a weirder color, like that's a more realistic face. Make no mistake, it is not easy to paint people's faces back in. But this method of doing it is not a bad way to go. Like I could take some red there. You can see even just doing it like this is a lot easier. Even create another layer. Or I can come in here to the select all the color bits that I have. And I could turn off that and just work on those. I can bring this up to the top and make this one the multiply layer. And then make all these normal layers. And then they're a little truer to the color. I can also go select this layer and ditch it a little bit. And you can keep working. However you like. I'm working like 50%. 5%. I'm going to take that back up. These are a little dark, huh? And remember, you don't really have to worry about the shirts and stuff because we're going to go back and paint those over. So if we're just looking to get skin tones, right, then this is a pretty good way of starting out get skin tones. So I do this. Find somewhere where we like it. But it's the only problem is that now it's like a super even skin tone, so you have to use like a red. Ooh, too much. Knock down my opacity. And the build color. The noses and the eyes are always, especially with these guys, the eyes are always red. And you can do the mouths too. If I dip back into we're not my painting class, it's like the middle of the face is blue and the forehead is green. There's like all these weird painting rules for painting painting guys, painting people. Even just adding a little brown or maybe some gray into the hair kind of helps quite a bit. And all those highlights come through. I think if you go in a little lighter and like less saturated, everything seems to be, the color seems to work a little bit better. Of course, everything's monochromatic. So obviously his shirt would be, which is the exact same problem you have with gum prints, right? And I have to go in and paint every little doohickey onto the shirt a different color. You don't have to really worry about the shadows too much, right? Because they're already set for you in this character. Like if I draw these in, here's the shadow. And if I draw into the shadow, you can't see it. But you know it's kind of there. Looks a little gum printy. Mostly because there's no real color variation in the blue. So I would probably go over with a shadow, uh, just another layer to alter it, but not this first pass. Okay, note to self, a simpler picture with one person for your homework. You might want to go pick a one person picture rather than one with a whole mess of people in it. Because that would be way easier to chase down than this is. nice because you can see where all the highlights are supposed to be really easily, and all the shadows. Finger, I can't tell what's what here. It might be a hand, huh? And remember, you don't have to color everything in. You can just color in the edges. And then head to fill. Use the fill tool. Here, new layer, color, white. Can't do multiply if I want white back, so I have to do a screen. Other than all their skin tones looking exactly the same, which is freaking me out. Oops, wrong layer. Probably want to take had weird subtleties in here like this, just so that they're a little, their skin colors are a little different. Oh, I'm still on. These merge them together just for fun. And you get kind of a gum print thing. Oh, I can go in with a darker brown. Working on skin variations. Careful not to get his eyes. So you're still gonna have to paint in the highlights. But I'm more interested in you guys kind of getting the idea of how this works. Taking a gradated picture. And being able to work with layers underneath the gray. Like I've never touched the gray. I'm working on these layers, but never touched the gray. Oops, hold on a second. Come on, you. Up too late, huh? Come on. Okay. So you can see how this goes. Just be subtle. If you're working with people, be subtle. You guys can do whatever you want. Choose whatever. Kind of people or whatever you'd like to work with. Doesn't have to be people. You can do a car or something. Up to you. Or I would recommend doing a car because working with people is a little rough. And going in, especially with this ridiculousness, trying to orchestrate their hands, each being a slightly different skin tone, is even worse. All right, I'll stop there. So that's your homework. Why don't you find an interesting picture and then recolorize it? It doesn't have to be fantastic. I don't paint portraitures. I do cartoons. So I know how to do this. I'm just not very good at it. But you should take your time and do the best job you can. I'm looking forward to seeing whatever you guys come up with because that's the fun part of it. Just pick an interesting picture and then color it in an interesting way. But don't color the gray area. Okay, there's my backdrop. That's the color portion. And then that's the color portion with the overlay. That's pretty much what I'll see. Great. I've included this one in there, but you please don't. And you can use it to follow along with me if you're interested, but you don't have to use it by any stretch. All right. I've also included the cartoon thingy and jigger in there if you want to do that. If I go to our class, colors in gray, and here's a little bit about the different adjustment sections. And the other video, I go through all the adjustments you can make. And then here are the things. And if I go back out to the modules, so here's the video. I'll post this second video up here in a little while. If we look at the modules here, you can see the two files are here if you want to use them, but please go get your own because I think that'd be much cooler. All right, you have your marching orders. I will see you